Hello and welcome in to another episode of the Fantasy Football Forecast. I'm your host, Trevor Scott, joined by my co-host, Matt Giraldi.
What's going on, guys?
And today we are going to be getting into the Home League Finals preview. We're very excited to talk about this. This is more for us, but we do want to hear you guys' thoughts and comments down below. If you guys are here, if you guys got anybody got to the finals, you got a matchup you're excited about, you got some start-sit questions. We're going to be doing a start-sit video tomorrow. So if you have any start-sit questions, get them down in the comments and we will make a point to put them in tomorrow's video. And so we're going to go through start-sit decisions. We're going to go through the path of these two teams to get here. And so let me share the two teams in our home league that made it to the finals here. So we've got Team 1 versus Team 2. Neither of these teams have been in our finals before. We have this league running now for 10 years. And these two teams, it's their first visits to the finals. We have a tradition in our league. We get together for the draft, as many of us as we can. And we have this thing called Champion Swim. So usually we're out in Palm Springs in California and it's hot for our draft. We get in the pool and we take a picture of all our past champions. And so you and I are both in that. And one of these two teams is going to be joining the pool this year. So that's going to be very fun for us. I know they both want to win so badly. They're both very, very happy to be here. And so we're excited for them just as league members. I did lose to Team 1 this week, so that's a little bit unfortunate. I was very excited to possibly be in this matchup, but Team 1 has just been on a roll. So talking about their paths in, Team 1 was the 4 seed in our league. He did lose in week 12 and in week 13. So his momentum going into the playoffs, he was feeling down about his team a little bit. But then he was able to win in week 14, kind of secure that 4 seed. And then he played another team that was really hot. It scored over 200 points going into the playoff, into the final week. And he dropped 225, which was the highest recorded score in our league history, other than me. And when I was on bye, I had 1 seed, but I was at 230 that week. It was wild. The scoring in week 15 was wild. But yeah, so he had 225, won handily in week 1, and then he scored 200. He backed it up with a 200-point performance against me. I scored 171. So he's got love going tonight. So we don't know exactly his point total, but he's already beat me, even without love going into this matchup. Team 2's path in was a lot more simple. He was the 2 seed, so he got the first round bye, and then he won a nail biter. The Rachaad White fumble literally iced the game for him. It was going to be down to 1.5 points. All the other team would have needed was another pass to Rachaad White for 10 yards to win. So that play, we were all sitting there oh my gosh, I can't even believe that just happened. So, and he was texting me, the group of chat was going off, and it was a good time for sure. So that was their paths in for this. Now we're going to look. Actually, before we do that, right, I want to highlight again, comment down below. If you have any start-sit decisions, we're going to talk about these teams' start-sit decisions specifically. But if you have anything that you want to hear about, anything, any sort of excitement in your own matchup, we'd love to hear it down below. And also, if you're new here and would like to hit that subscribe button for us, we'd love that too. So getting into Team 1 here. So this is the hottest team, obviously, in our league based on the 225 and 200 the last 2 weeks. But, this is going to be an interesting matchup because Team 2 has the better quarterbacks, but Team 1 has the better pretty much everything else. So, obviously the Chase Brown and James Cook thing is unbelievably strong. They do both have a little bit difficult matchups. I don't know if the Jets is really a difficult matchup, but Kyron kind of didn't do much against them. And unfortunately, he's not going to have James Conner against the Rams. Maybe I should say, right? That's we don't know the extent of the knee injury yet, but looks like Michael Carter might be in line to start there if Trey Benson can't go. So that's his running back group going up against Joe Mixon and Bucky Irving. So, I think Mixon had been really good until he started hitting these really difficult matchups, and he gets another one here against Baltimore. So unfortunately, I would temper my expectations significantly for Mixon. I could even see possibly sitting him because he's been so bad. I don't think that's going to be the way Team 2 goes here, but I would take Team 1's running backs pretty clearly over Team 2's.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that, and I think with Brown too, like it was a surprise that he wasn't part of the scoring party this last week. Like I would expect that to change this week. James Cook, man, like I know they work in Ty Johnson, I know they work in Ray Davis, but when Cook has the ball, he is just electric and he catches passes too. And I think they're going to roll the Jets. And even if they don't, like in best case, it's a competitive game. Like that's even better for Cook. So I definitely see that as the advantage here. And we've talked about Baltimore's run defense so much this year that I think that's a tough spot for Mixon. He obviously is coming off a tough week. Bucky Irving, like maybe the fact that Rashad White fumbled, like that's going to get him even more playing time. I definitely think it should. Brees Hall, he's been, I wouldn't say a bust this year, but a little bit of a disappointment. But yeah, I think looking down at the bench for Team 2, it's like Tajay Spears, like back to back really good weeks, has a good matchup, but like
back to back 2 touchdown weeks.
Yeah, it's like, can you trust that in the finals? And it's like, I don't know.
I forgot to put his team on there, but it's the Jags. Spears gets the Jags. So it's like, I don't know that he's going to go to Spears, but I personally think he should continue to roll Brees out there. Brees looked good, got actually quite a bit of work and pass catching work. I think if he wanted to get Spears into his lineup, I actually think that spot would be more debatable for Mixon personally. But it would just be very difficult decision to decide to sit Mixon for Tajay Spears in the finals. I just don't see it happening.
And I think too with Spears, it's like I would assume, a lot of his work has been, they've been getting blown out too. So if this is a more competitive game, like we probably would see more Pollard, but we don't know how hurt Pollard is. Like, I don't know. I would be scratching my head with this one. I don't envy that. That's going to be tricky.
Yeah, so I don't anticipate he'd play Spears, but we'll see how the start sit decision goes there. I would leave the running backs in for Team 2, and obviously if Connor goes, he's going to be in Team 1's flex spot over Jauan Jennings. But again, looking at Bucky Irving too, just to highlight, he gets Carolina. I mean, he just had 18 points. I think it was in half PPR. This week he gets Carolina, very bad run defense. I would expect roughly 20 points again, so that can really possibly elevate his ceiling. It's just the 2 running backs on Team 1 have been scoring almost 15 to 20 points every single week. So it's like that's going to happen versus Bucky if his back acts up at all. He did look healthy last week and was pretty good the week before that too. 15 carries, 117 yards in that game. So Team 1 has the advantage at running back though. So looking down at the wide receiver group, Team 1, Jamar Chase, that might be the biggest difference maker in the league, in all leagues, right? I mean, he has been so good. He caught that touchdown kind of in garbage time when they could have just needed out. That was kind of weird. They had like a free play and decided to take a shot to him. Didn't look like the corner was even ready for him to run deep. It kind of just was like this weird thing. And I was just like sitting there like, no, dude, come on. Like, why are you doing this to me? But Chase is awesome. He's going to get Surtain quite a bit, but we've seen Denver be very leaky on defense. It's number 1 wide receiver specifically ever over the last month, right? I mean, ever since Judy just kind of lit them up. So Chase is going to move around the formation. Surtain doesn't shadow, so I think they're going to find ways to get him open. And then Mike Evans, he had a down game last week, but he has been phenomenal, and he's chasing that 1,000-yard season. I really think they're going to make a point to try and get him the ball even more in this game. They were trailing to Dallas, unfortunately, and he still didn't do a ton in the second half. But I think over 100 yards here, I feel like is almost a lock. And then Brian Thomas Jr., nobody in the league is hotter than him right now. It's just constant onslaught of deep touchdowns, targets. Mac Jones has settled in and targets him heavily every single game. He is absolutely the alpha, absolutely a top 10 wide receiver locked in, even going into this more difficult matchup against Tennessee than you may otherwise have thought. Going over to the other side, obviously Puka is great. He had a down game this past week, but 2 weeks ago he had like 35. So, maybe that could be the difference maker for Team 2. I think he's kind of the superstar on Team 2's team who needs to go off for him to really elevate that ceiling in order to beat Team 1. And against Arizona, I don't know that it could be a better matchup for that to happen. So Arizona just got eliminated from the playoffs. The Rams are still in a race with Seattle for the division. And so I think that they could just take it to Arizona this week, and Puka would be a big part of that. Drake London left the game with a hamstring injury, so I don't know exactly what his status is going to be throughout the week or how effective he's going to be even if he goes. They said it's minor, so that to me means that he's going to play. Obviously, they're very much in a hunt for the playoffs. They're really trying to pass Tampa Bay, and so going up against Washington, not an ideal matchup from like trying to win the game perspective. But I do think that London can get loose on Washington. Penix's second start, I think he maybe is a little bit more settled in and can get the ball to London a little more frequently. They will be chasing points here, so that's kind of all lines up well for London. And then the last guy here, DeVonta Smith. This is going to be very interesting to watch too, because he might decide to bench Smith for Jameson Williams if Jalen Hurts doesn't play. Jalen Hurts left with a concussion. Smith, he had like 6 for 50. He had that brutal drop that lost them the game. But overall, he was pretty good. And if Hurts is back in this matchup against Dallas, I think that he can be heavily involved and put up a good total. Overall, I'm taking Team 1, but what do you got on Team 1 versus Team 2's receivers?
I mean, it's a complete juggernaut on Team 1 with Evans, Chase, and BTJ. And it's funny because I know we talked about this last week, how we love BTJ. We talked about him all off season. We didn't push him up as high as we necessarily should have, but the consensus amongst scouts too, remember it was like the big three at wide receiver, and then it was BTJ, like, oh, he's definitely a tier below Rome. Forget that. Like,
yeah,
so
absolutely
again,
not. He's the only one that has 1,000 yards. Yeah.
Yeah. Trust your eyeballs and go with the guys that you like. But man, those are tasty matchups too. And with Baker coming off a loss, like he's gonna feed his guy. And I think I get what you're saying with Puka. I guess the one thing I do worry about a little bit is Arizona's run defense is so bad that McVay might just pound the ball like 35 times, which could cap Puka's upside. With London, Penix second game, maybe the film is out on him. Maybe they shut him down a little bit more. And then if it's not Jalen Hurts, then I don't think I could start DeVonta here, especially with Jameson's upside, especially if, we don't have the projections yet from Sleeper, but I would imagine it's going to be pretty high in favor of Team 1. So you might have to go with the home run hitter with JMO.
Yeah, the sleeper projection I expect to be probably 15 points in favor of Team 1. But that can swing within the first 15 minutes of the game. So,
yeah,
it's like I try to, for the purposes of talking about this, I try not to buy into sleepers projections because they're so bad so frequently. That's my main gripe with them as a platform, is their projection. Whoever does it or whatever their system is so bad. It's basically just like, here's 11 points for your receiver if you're good, and here's 13 for your running back if it's good.
Well, you're on a first name basis with Sleeper support team. You're on their list. So
yeah, seriously. I messaged them about switching the consolation bracket. It was like 12 and 11 were supposed to get the bye in the consolation bracket, and they switched it to 7-8. And the only explanation they gave me was just, nope, we switched something in the software, so that's how it has to be. And I was like, what? You changed that mid-season, didn't put out an announcement, and then you're just gonna leave it? Okay, cool. I guess I don't have any leg to stand on. I guess my league mates, but oh well. Whatever. That was in my dynasty league implications, where I'm trying to get the first pick. So, which I am playing for that next week. I'm very happy about it. So going down to the tight end position here, we got LaPorta versus Strange. LaPorta obviously scored on that trick play, and he's been pretty solid over the last month, really. Double-digit points in 3 of the last 4. And then Brenton Strange, you have the weird thing where he had like 11 for 73, and then he had 2 for 22 and fumbled. So I don't know if Team 2 is going to go back to Brenton Strange. I think we do have some options on the waiver wire, but against Tennessee, we just saw Tennessee drop 30 on the Colts. And so maybe that turns into like a sneaky shootout here, and Strange is involved quite a bit more. So I could see Strange being a decent option. I would start LaPorta here, but I think these are both relatively inconsequential for this matchup.
Yeah, that's where I disagree. I think LaPorta is at a huge advantage. And the reason that Strange is starting on Team 2 is he did lose Cade Otton.
But when you say there's a huge disparity here, what do you think LaPorta's upside even is? He just had an awesome game and he scored, 12? So like if he doesn't score the touchdown, he's going to score 8, maybe? I guess he could get to 15, but I just don't know that there's, even if he does get to like 12 or 15, if Strange gets 7 or 8, there's that's not going to be a huge factor, I don't think, in deciding
I
the
mean,
outcome. Maybe it's really close, but I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, for me, with them not having Montgomery, I think they might try to throw it a little bit more inside the 10-yard line, which definitely benefits LaPorta. And for better or worse, like I'm just always the fantasy player that just rides on the better player. Like I would rather lose with somebody that I know is talented and I like than someone who I don't really know in Britton Strange. And that's cost me sometimes. That's helped me some other times. But like I don't know. I might be looking to I think like a Hunter Henry on the wire in this situation. I would obviously have to dig into it more, but I would feel much more confident rolling out LaPorta in this one.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because Strange doesn't have any touchdowns, but I'm surprised you're maybe not a little bit more in on Strange. I mean, as he's a second year player, he showed that he can be good with Engram out this year, and he was a second round pick last year. So I don't know, it's not like he's nothing here. It's not like he's a nobody
Yeah.
or like somebody they're not confident in. Engram has an out after this year. I could see them cutting Engram and turning over the tight end position to Brenton Strange, and we're looking at him as a borderline top 10 option at the position next year. So I'm surprised you're not a little bit more in on Strange. He's not a nobody. For anybody listening, we are going to be having conversations about him in the offseason, I think. So, but anyways, I think we've talked about tight end long enough for how little of an impact tight end has had this year. So let's get into the quarterbacks. We did talk about the flex players a little bit with Brees and Jauan Jennings. We'll talk about them briefly at the end. But the quarterbacks is the main thing that we're going for here, and we want to highlight how much better Team 2's quarterbacks are than Team 1. So obviously Team 2, you've got Jayden Daniels, who just went off 5 touchdowns against Philly, one of the best defenses. Ended up winning the game. I know they turned it over 5 times too, and were still able to win. Obviously that had a lot to do with Hurts getting hurt, but I do think that Daniels going up against Atlanta, I don't know. Atlanta's defense has been playing really good, but I think they're going to get torched in this one because before these last 2 games, they had not been very good. And so, I really like Daniels this week going up against Atlanta, and then Sam Darnold going up against Green Bay, division game. It's at Green Bay, so that's, maybe there's some weather factoring in there. But I do think he's going to play Darnold over Mahomes going up against Pittsburgh. I think that could be a low-scoring game. Both teams try and establish a run and maybe don't get a ton of scoring in that game, despite the fact that Mahomes has been good over his last 4 or 6 games. So I think he's going to stick with Darnold. He's been benching Mahomes pretty much all year, ever since Darnold kind of took over. And Mahomes had that really cold start. He's just been letting it ride with Daniels and Darnold. So I expect him to go in that direction. With Team 1, he's got Jordan Love and Drake Maye with CJ Stroud. Stroud obviously has been a major disappointment. Less than 15 points constantly at at quarterback. And Drake Maye has been surprisingly good. I mean, he's been 15 plus in most games. So it's only been a few points difference between the two, I feel like, most times. But Drake Maye, he's been continuing to roll out. So I think even despite the tougher matchup against the Chargers, I think he has more faith in Maye, and he's going to sit Stroud, even though Stroud has a awesome matchup against Baltimore. Stroud did just lose Tank Dell as well. So another weapon that they don't have. There's going to be a lot of focus on Nico Collins. Not that that's mattered for Baltimore. Their defense has been so bad through the air. But I do expect him to play Maye over Stroud. And Jordan Love has been his locked-in starter all year. Love obviously missed a couple games and, hasn't been awesome. But even going up against Minnesota's defense has not stopped the pass super well, even though their defensive unit overall is good. So I would give the quarterback advantage to Team 2 by quite a bit here. I would definitely play all 3 of Team 2's quarterbacks over anybody Team 1 has. But, you can only play 2 of them. And I think, if Love can maybe float him a little bit and Drake Maye gets 60 yards rushing, I could see his quarterbacks still trying to compete and help him hang in it.
Well, I'm just excited that Love and Darnold are facing off, right? Like that's going to be awesome to watch the back and forth. And I think with, Minnesota's run defense is pretty good. So if they can't get Jacobs going, like it might force Love's hand more than we've seen. We're recording this right before the Monday night game, so we'll see how that shakes out. But I can imagine they're not going to have to lean on them too much against the Saints. But yeah, I mean, I was watching the games with the owner of Team 1 on Sunday, and, he is very Maye over Stroud, no matter however you slice it out. And so roll with your guy. He's done with Stroud. And, Maye, I love Maye. I had him as my number 2 QB in this class. Maybe that's a mistake. Maybe that's good. Maybe Caleb is down to 3. Who knows? But anyways, but he runs too, and he didn't run as much this last week. But if he gets 50 on the ground and a score, and that's the only way you can try to keep up with Jayden, because Jayden, if they let him loose, like it's going to be 25 plus easy.
Yeah, it's going to be fireworks there. All right, so moving off of the quarterbacks here, we're going to talk about the kicker and defenses quick. The kickers, I don't know if they'll change. Maybe they will. I don't think that's super substantial. I think Team 1 has had McLaughlin for the better half of the year, and Team 2 churns a kicker every single week. So we'll see who Team 2 goes with. He's got a hidden source on kickers, that he likes to go to. So that I anticipate that to be different. Looking at the DSTs, though, right? You get the Falcons playing Washington. Obviously, the Falcons were great in 2 good matchups, but I can't imagine he's going to play them against Washington. And then the Jaguars versus Tennessee. Maybe he rolls the Jags back out, but that was only 4 points last week. Tennessee hung 30 on the Colts, so I don't know if he wants to play the Jaguars. I wouldn't. And we wanted to comment on the defenses because we've been hammering on Beat the Waiver Wire on defenses, and they didn't listen to us. We offered so many different teams.
We made 3 episodes on it. Dedicated
hammering on trying to prepare. And neither of them took the advice. So whatever, they get to try and compete against each other on the waiver wire. I think Team 2 has 4 fab left and Team 1 has 0. So Team 2 will get their choice of defense first. And maybe they try and block them with adding 3 or 4 defenses. Who knows? So, I mean, if I was in his position, that's what I'd be doing. But overall, since they didn't prepare for this, I don't know what they're going to do. So we'll see tonight when waivers run, or tomorrow night when waivers run. But overall, this is going to be a good matchup. I really am happy for both of them for making it. I'm really excited to see that one of them is going to be a winner, join our league's honorable group. So overall, I do think that Team 1 is going to win. I think just the running back and receivers that they have are just going to be so much for Team 2 to overcome. And Team 1 has been just absolutely outscoring Team 2 over the last three weeks. So hasn't always been like that all year. Maybe things will be different, right? There are guys on Team 2 that just have been underperforming a little bit that could blow up. But I do expect Team 1 to get the win here and be crowned our 2024 league champion.
I'm going to go Team 1 as well, and I think it's going to be a blowout.
I was talking to Team 1, who happens to be my brother. But I was playing him this week, and we were lamenting the fact that, regardless of what happened, this was before the matchup started, regardless of what happens, that we felt like that game was the real championship, and that it was unfortunate that we each didn't get to play the other teams, because I scored 171, he's going to score 200, and Team 2 scored 132, and the other team that he beat scored 128. So it was just like, so lame that the 2 best teams aren't going to go to the finals. But that being said, Team 2 still has a swinging, still has a puncher's chance here, and we're going to roll with Team 1. But hopefully we get a good match. We get some nerves and some excitement, and it'll be fun to watch. So, all right, thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for entertaining us on our on our league's title. Again, any questions, put them down in the comments. Any excitement that you want to share with us, put it down in the comments. We look forward to talking to you the next one.
Later.